I had an amazing experience a week or so ago, and I want to share it with you. I was in Texas for a ribbon cutting for a new pantry at Brazosport Cares. Brazosport Cares is a food pantry serving a pretty rural area in South Texas. There's not a lot there. A lot of people who need help, and that's what the organization does. So I want to tell you the story. It was really fun. I met Christy Fry, the executive director, I think in 2019, though she says she found me online in 2017. She shared a story over dinner while I was there that when she first took the job of executive director 20 years ago, they had $36 in the bank. She started out as a volunteer executive director, and what she has grown there and accomplished is nothing short of amazing. Brazosport Cares Food Pantry operated for years in a small building that was once a garage, so where they worked on cars. It was never meant to be a food pantry. It was not laid out to be a food pantry. And it was serving people, which is wonderful, but on a smallish scale. So we started coaching together, and I helped them put their plan in place and increase their monthly giving and increase how much they were bringing in from all kinds of revenue streams. We worked on their core number. We worked on their website. We did a lot. We put a lot in place in terms of annual operating fundraising, which was great. And she was hiring additional staff. Wound up with a wonderful young woman who took over development, and she had such good instincts. We started hitting things out of the park. And you can see in this image, like, what a powerful, powerful campaign that was. That was a Giving Tuesday. We opened a satellite pantry in a community a little distance away from the main pantry. Their numbers were growing. Everything was fabulous. It was all just going really well. They realized that they needed more space because they were serving more people, because they were moving more food through their facility. They needed to make some changes in their building. So she called. She said, "Hey, we need to do some renovations on our building. We think it's going to cost about $700,000." I said, "Well, hang on. Let me bring in Gary. Gary Drennan from our team he's our capital campaign guy." And so Gary called, talked to Christy, found out what they really might want, and if they had money, they wanted to build a new building, but they just didn't see that that was going to be possible. So Gary did a feasibility study for them, and if you're not familiar with that, he basically interviewed a whole bunch of donors, and he literally had people saying, if they want to renovate that current space, I'll give you this, but if they'll build a new building, I'll give you this. So donors were committing so much more money for a bigger space. It was really awesome. So we started Capital Campaign. I'm working with the team on annual fundraising. Gary's working on capital fundraising. And the next thing you know, we've raised enough that we're breaking ground. And it was amazing. It was so exciting to scoop that shovel in and build the new facility. We were able to help them figure out who their best prospects were. We built different donor giving levels, and it took a little while. Capital campaign fundraising is no small feat. And then the next thing you know, the building is done. They're ready to move. We were able to share that with all the families that they serve. And then, of course, I was there last week. Gary and I both were there last week for the ribbon cutting. It was very emotional for me to be there and be part of that event. To walk through the building brought back so many memories of when I worked at the food bank. But it also really touched my heart when I walked through and realized what a nice space they had at that point to serve the families who needed them. They had plenty of space for every aspect of their process. People walked in, signed in into a really lovely space, and then there was plenty of room for volunteers to help people pick out the food that they needed. it was no more, it wasn't cramped anymore. It wasn't a tiny little space that was never meant to be a food pantry. It wasn't a whole bunch of small rooms. Now it was a huge room with shelves down 2 long walls and coolers full of fish and chicken and everything that a family might need. They also built a big space for their staff. So now their team has enough room to work and they've got space to store things. If you've worked in fundraising, you know that there's always boxes of stuff left over from this project and that event, and it's nice to have a place to put that. Their donor tree is so awesome. It really ties in well with their brand of the orange and everything, and they gave them a way to acknowledge all of the big donors for the campaign, which was awesome. They even worked with the local historical museum to develop this placard that shows the history of the organization. The long and short of it is it was amazing to go from beginning to end with these folks, from just a random idea of, gosh, it sure would be nice if we could raise more money and have a new facility. And it was so amazing to be there with them and look for tissues because we all had tears in our eyes of being able to accomplish that project, but also just thinking about how many people in that community are going to be served and served very well because that new building is there. Funny enough, this also marks 40 years of fighting hunger for the organization. They've been around 40 years, and now we're very excited to see what the next 40 years is going to hold for them. So if this is something that touches your heart, then I'm really glad that I shared it. If you watched this and said, dang, I want a new building for my organization, let us know. We'd be happy to chat with you and see if we can help you reach the same goals that we helped Brazosport Cares reach.